And the phone lines are open on 011-542-1046, 011-542-1046 to contribute to this debate around the safety of children, especially in light of sexual predators who are meant to be protectors. We joined in studio by Re Matakanya, National Association of School Governing Bodies General Secretary, and Rose Mongatana, sexual assault survivor, and Thomas Tacha is with Sanko, the Johannesburg Regional Chairperson. Good evening to you all our guests, and thank you so much for joining us. Sanko being the South African civic organization, not necessarily as glorious as it used to be. Retacha, just talk us through what kind of processes are missing in ensuring safety of learners and teachers in schools.
The process that you're missing. As Sanko, we really take a back seat, like I said earlier. But now what is important is to encourage parents to participate in governing bodies, because those are the brainchild. I can say it's one of the brainchild of Sanko to say that let's have governing bodies, let's have CPFs from the USD self-defense unit of the time. So now what we need to do is to revive all organs of civil society, your street committees and the rest, so that we believe that every child at school is my child.
So while we were talking off air, as you're saying that Sanko is not, doesn't necessarily have the necessary infrastructure, logistics or resources as it previously used to, but the system in itself is very fractured, Rose, and you can speak about your own experience in that if the parental support is not there, if the judicial system is not there, we are generally failing our children and leaving them vulnerable to predators.
I think if your parents are not supportive, it's a different issue. But the common issue you find amongst most survivors is that the police system is flawed. There's not enough training with officers who take statements of victims. There is not enough training with officers who are there when you're there to follow up. Because in my case, when I went to follow up, the police, I think it was the officer who was there, didn't really care about what was going on, didn't want to give me any other information, just said, if there's new development, we will call you.
And not to go back to having you relive your trauma, but just to give us a sense of exactly what happened in your case.
In my case, I was walking home from school. A stranger asked for directions. I gave him directions. And the next thing, I was on the floor. I knew the whole system because my mom is an LO teacher, so I knew I had to go to the police station, then to the hospital with the police, and then therapy and so on and so forth. But not many people understand and know the process that you should go through after such an experience.
Again, with unless you are emotionally astute, I suppose, and you're physically strong, you're a survivor like Rose, it's not necessarily the case for a 7-year-old or a 9-year-old who do not have the emotional cognizance of what it is that they need to do. In this case, somebody who's an investigator in a current case happens to be on the premises and allegedly assaults 2 more children. Where is the vetting process of who works on the premises of schools?
Thank you very much, Cindy, and good evening once again all the listeners of 405. You see, it is very, very disheartening, very disheartening that at this time that we are still discussing one issue. However, even before one dives into that matter, I want to make a call to the Minister of Police. I want to make also a call to the Minister of Justice that they must just make an example of Orlando Police Station. Make example of Orlando Police Station. Look, those children were abused by a patroller. And that patroller was vetted by Orlando Police Station. Now, and we thought at this time, then we mourned enough, then we are just about to forget about what really had happened to our children. Then it's Orlando Police Station once again. This time, a professional policeman Now, you ask yourself a question. When there are women policemen, policewomen, there are men policemen. When there are victims who are male, why don't you use male police? When there are victims that are female, why don't you use female police?
It's a more sensitized way of dealing with it. Rema Takanya will take more callers as well and views. Temba in the Val, good evening to you and thanks so much for joining us.
Cindy, how are you?
I'm okay, so how are you?
Thanks for taking me. Cindy, I'm so worried. South Africans, we are not honest. We are not honest in such a way that we call ourselves leaders, of which we are misleading our community and our society. A simple thing. The very same minister, he has crime charges. How can the police, that they can do the right things in our society, of which the person that who's leading them, he's a criminal also? I want our South Africans to be fair and square. They must stop leading our society, Comrade Cindy. The minister, we are leading by criminals. I will emphasize, it's very sad because they do that on the wrong people, on the poor people. I will emphasize the police to do crime, our government will protect them.
Yeah. Temba, let's get a view from our panelists, and I understand your frustration as well, and I think it's very little comfort for the parents of these children who have been molested and victimized, that we can talk about it as statistics, not understanding fully that the impact of such a trauma will also permeate in that child's life when they grow older. Do you think, Retaha, that the system is generally rotten, that, you know, unless we go into vigilantism, or how do we deal with issues of criminality at school and in society?
It's very pathetic. It's very difficult. What I believe in is to go back to basics. If we can take a community to understand that we need to protect each other. I don't know in which sense, but I don't want us to politicize these problems that we have, because we might not be able to deal with if we're politicizing them. I want to say, if we can conscientize our community to rise above occasion, to unite like we did before 1994, definitely we shall conquer.
We have another caller, Sakina in Mpumalanga. Good evening to you and thanks so much for joining us. What is your view or question?
Good evening.
Please turn down your TV set. Sakina's giving us feedback.
I'm actually just doing that. Turn down the volume, the boy. Okay. Good evening, Cindy. I have a serious problem with the way our society has turned out in general. We have a serious moral degeneration. Everything that you see every day is like normal to people's eyes, and it's not normal. I don't know why would they assign a male investigator to go and look and be the person investigating and overlooking little girls. I don't know if he was properly vetted, and if they know his background, they know what troubles him wherever he comes from. I think the police as well are really failing in all spheres, because they should be making sure that they protect these children. A female will have a caring hand. She'll be able to understand the situation the girl is going through, not a male. A male usually sees a female as a sexual object, and that is very disturbing.
Sakina, thanks so much. Yeah, thank you so much for your call. And I just want to go to you, Rose. In your view, your experience, and whether, you know, in hindsight, you could have done anything different, and what kind of conversations do you have as a survivor of a sexual assault? You know, speak us through that, and to empower other victims. And secondly, whether it is a societal issue in how generally there is misogyny, you know, there's just blatant disregard for the female race.
Cindy, I think it's more of when you are going through it. For many years, I saw myself as a victim, many years. And what that does to a person psychologically is that you find ways to pull yourself down. And the minute I started meeting up with more women and there's also men who have been through this situation. And the more I met with those groups is the more I realized that I'm a survivor. I've survived this, meaning I went through the emotions. I went through the healing process and I talked about it. The more you talk about it, the more you heal. Some people feel better when they write about it. But society is rotten to that point where you can't walk by, even a young girl in school uniform can't walk by and a man sees that child as a child. If you start seeing a 7-year-old as a woman, then the society is rotten. Then we have a problem in our society.
Simpiwe and Rustenburg, good evening and thanks for your patience. What's your comment or question?
Into engifuna ukukhuluma mama kulento yokuba amapolisa avictimize abantu. I-problem esinayo yile mama. Ukunqaba komsebenzi akunamuntu obiziweyo. Yazi xa utishala ufuna kube yinto esuka kuwe ngaphakathi uqala ngutishala ulipolisa. Lo nto uyenza ngenhliziyo yakho yonke. Uyayibona?
No, iqiniso leyo Simpiwe, siyabonga kakhulu that the wrong people eventually make it into these professions that are essentially a calling. You're not in it for enrichment. You are there because it is your form of ministry. But when we go back to the police itself and the vetting process, Remadakanya, should it now rest on the Orlando police station for having vetted this particular officer to investigate this matter? Or is it because the system in itself is corrupt? There may be levels of corruption. How do you get to the root of it?
Getting to the root of it, I think we just have to start with Orlando. And once we got it right with Orlando, then I think we shall have it right throughout the whole country in all police stations. Because any type of criminality, we cannot report it anywhere except police station. Now, it therefore means if we don't get the police station correct, then we are no more. I mean, that comes question of vandalism and where communities are just going to organize themselves. Such criminalities, then they react as community, which is going to be incorrect. You understand? We are discouraging vandalism. So it therefore implies that now we have to correct the police stations. Now, if we deal with Orlando, because it is for the second time, as I'm saying, 87 children, if you remember, Cindy, were victimized in that school, and the victimizer probably was vetted by Orlando Police Station. Now, Orlando Police Station is dealing with the case, that case of the very same police. And the question is, are they not aware that now there is a predator among them? There is also the type of predator, the pedophile, because that person is, to me, is a pedophile. So we can't, and the law does not allow, especially the law in terms of Children's Act, do not allow a person who cannot work with children and send and go and work with children.
Yes. Let's take a view also from Dr. Shahida Omar from the Teddy Bear Clinic as a clinical director. Dr. Omar, good evening to you and thank you so much for joining us. I mean, there's all sorts of propositions and suggestions that one can make, but ultimately it is about justice being served for the survivors. But at the tender age of 7, 9, or, you know, as a child, there should be mechanisms to protect children, at least from a sexual registrar point of view, where you name and shame, or you're at least aware of sexual predators within your community.
Indeed. I think we just need to appreciate that there's been gaps here. There's been oversight in terms of stringent clearance, stringent screening, and even the fact that he is a forensic evaluator, that him having contact with a victim of sexual abuse, a prior victim of sexual abuse, there should have been some kind of one-way mirror facility or a camera facility that could ensure both the safety of the child and also ensuring that he would be protected if there were any false allegations. So I think this whole situation is completely unacceptable, and it is failing children at the best and the worst of times. The fact that it's been a family violence, child protection and sexual offences unit officer indicates that it's a specialized unit and they have failed children. It's where the systems have now failed children, where the system should have actually ensured the safety and protection of children have now violated and induced secondary trauma and secondary victimization to these children. It's almost as if taking a plate and throwing it down, shattering it and trying to put it together. There are so many cracks. So the physical wounds can heal, but are the emotional scars going to fade? And that is what we are faced here with, the issue of trust. These children have been repeatedly violated, but they are now violated by a law officer and a law enforcement officer who has betrayed and demonstrated deceit, lies, and the issue of trust. How are they going to be able to trust again?
Dr. Omar, and I hate to break your word, but in terms of assisting, these would be communities that are not very well resourced or may not have the necessary networks to effectively make sure that justice is applied and meted against the perpetrators. What kind of support does the Teddy Bear Clinic, or can you have you engaged with the school at all? Has there been any form of outreach?
We have. We've already engaged with the Department of Education. I think this needs to be a collaborative effort. It's not just a one-man show. It requires intersectoral intervention. So we need to bring the school on board, the educational department, NGOs, and not excluding SAPs. So I think this requires a comprehensive and integrated response to the matter of national urgency. It is a matter of national urgency in order to ensure that the parents are also supported through this process, because they are devastated, they are shocked, they cannot even believe what has happened, and it's not happened for the first time. But this violation is such a gross violation that requires an integrated response.
Dr. Omar, we're going to leave it there. That's Dr. Shahira Omar, Teddy Bear Clinic Clinical Director, joining us on the phone line. We continue here in studio in that we have all these organizations and departmental agencies, but it doesn't seem like there's a common national strategy, if you will, that will eradicate any fear, or rather any danger and vulnerability of students, especially in township and rural schools. Why do you think that is?
I think we're not coming together as communities, as these structures. Like she just said, we need intersectoral type of partnership to come together, plan together, and have a clear way forward on how do we deal with these issues. I think we lack a combination of strategies and proper informed positions, like Bontate Mataganya, who are there in the forefront. You don't leave them when you deal with these issues. The experience based on what happened, you bring all these things, these people together. We're definitely going to get somewhere. Yes.
And I mean, Rose, I can imagine just the impact on your family as well, as Dr. Omar was saying that, you know, as a parent of two myself, you would take that guilt upon yourself to say you're supposed to be the protector, the caregiver, and at all times ensure that your child is safe. Talk us through how you had conversations that dealt with the trauma not only on yourself, but the impact on your family.
I'm not very vocal when it comes to how I feel, so it took me a while to be able to open up to my mom about it. I think male figures in our lives are more difficult to talk to, because I feel they should have protected you, so they don't know how to talk to you about it. So with my dad, we hardly talk about it at all. But with my mom, we talk about it all the time. She gives me advice. She connects me with groups that I should go to if I don't feel like talking about this with her. But it's very important not to only counsel the learners, but also to counsel the parents and advise them on how to treat how to behave or how to treat children after this, because most parents don't understand that it changes the child. It changes the behavior of the child. I was a very angry teenager after that. I was not really pleasant with my parents. I somehow went through the path of being a tomboy to conceal, yes, to conceal the fact that I'm a woman. So you conceal it with clothing. And then I went through the rebellious stage of dressing as low as possible, because it was my body and I was supposed to be in control of it. Nobody could take that away from me anymore. So all these stages, a parent needs to know how to deal with it. And that's where counseling is very important, not only for the child, but also for the parent on how to deal with the different stages of grief, as if I can put it like that.
I honor you, my queen, and thank you so much for sharing your experience.
Thank you.
We're going to have to leave it there. We had Re Matakanya, National Association of School Governing Bodies, as the General Secretary. Rose, who is a courageous young lady who truly inspires. Rose Mungatane is a sexual assault survivor and shared her story with us. And Thomas Tacha is a Sanko Johannesburg Regional Chairperson, and Dr. Omar was on the phone line. We'll take a quick break. We'll see you shortly.